Star Wars is one of the most recognizable franchises on the planet, and using that advantage, the companies that have owned Star Wars have released plenty of Star Wars video games to make a healthy profit. You got your classics, the original Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, Knights of the Old Republic, the first Force Unleashed, and then you got your infamous games, the new Star Wars Battlefronts 1 and 2, Force Unleashed 2, and Star Wars Kinect. But what if I told you there was a Star Wars game so weird and good, and you never heard of it? So yeah, this game is Star Wars Obi Wan. That's the name. Star Wars Obi Wan was released in 2001. It's a single-player, third-person game that revolves around Obi Wan. The game was released by LucasArts, so there's no shady business going on here. This was a full-fledged release. And it was actually part of the Star Wars canon for a while, until Disney bought Star Wars. It was also one of the first games for the original Xbox console, so you know going in with that, there's gonna be some flaws with this game, and there are. The main part of this game is the campaign, which is basically the only part about this game. The storyline takes place right before and during the movie Phantom Menace. You play as Obi-Wan, but as a Padawan to Qui-Gon Jinn. The game is interesting, particularly with its lightsaber gameplay. The right analog stick of the Xbox console is entirely dedicated to the lightsaber itself. If you move the right analog stick to the right, your lightsaber will move to the right. If you move it up and down quickly, your lightsaber will move up and down quickly. So when you're slashing enemies, you can just move it back and forth all over the place, wherever, and it will follow your command. So it's pretty unique in that way. I don't really think there's any other Star Wars game that has that sort of mechanic. It's not like the Star Wars Battlefront games where, you just click the attack button and it kind of does its own move. You actually kind of control it, which is a cool concept. It is a little clunky, and I'll get to that later. But it is an interesting new kind of concept, and I like that they went with this change. They tried to make something different. On top of that, Obi-Wan also has a few Force abilities, but these are limited by regenerating Force bars, so you can't just push your enemies everywhere. The Force abilities are pretty standard to the Star Wars universe, nothing crazy. You can throw your lightsaber, you can do a high jump, you can push people, the good old Star Wars Force stuff. The lightsaber mechanics can be pretty clunky at times, like I said. It's really hard to block shots and to block melee attacks. So really, when you're attacking someone, you kind of just have to get there first before they can do that much damage on you. Also, one thing that I noticed is that the Force abilities don't really seem to register all that often. I think this is probably because of the movement controls, which are really stiff and not free moving. You see, Obi-Wan can really only move in kind of like 8 to 9 directions. Forward, to the right, to the left, backwards, diagonal in each way. He can't really move fluidly. So if an enemy kind of dodges you, you have to manually turn around and go back and then attack, kind of like a car doing a 3-point turn. It can get really frustrating at times, especially when you die to this. So anyway, I said the storyline was the main part. So what's the story? Is it intriguing? Kinda. The game takes place over 5 chapters with around 3 to 4 missions in each chapter. The first chapter takes place on Coruscant, and you basically are the Star Wars equivalent of ICE, as you basically kill gangs who roam the depths of Coruscant. The second chapter takes place around a group called the Black Heth, who smuggle weapons to the Coruscant guards and rebels. They also look like the guards from The Last Jedi, so maybe Rian Johnson played Star Wars Obi-Wan and was like, man, these red guys are pretty cool, I better put them in The Last Jedi. So maybe Star Wars Obi-Wan had a profound effect on the actual movies. I don't know, I'm just saying what I'm seeing. The third chapter takes place in the movie as you fight the Trade Federation and go through their ship and eventually end up on Naboo. All of the little missions and stuff that you play in the game are not particularly in the movie. I mean, some of them are, for example, the Darth Maul fight all the way at the end, but most of it is what takes place in between each scenes in the movie. The fourth chapter is entirely dedicated to Tatooine, and you have to rescue Padme as she got kidnapped by some Tusken Raiders. The last chapter is back on Naboo, and it takes place toward the end of the Phantom Menace movie as you kill droid armies and fight Darth Maul. And here's the thing, I know I'm just kind of briefly went over this game, it's not that quick, okay? It will take you more than a day to complete. It is very hard and very frustrating. I died a lot. And the ending scene, you know, the scene that's supposed to be the most rewarding is this. There's not even any dialogue or anything. It's just some music as Obi Wan walks up the ship with little skinny ass Anakin over there, looking like a freaking little pencil. What the hell is that? That's supposed to be Anakin Skywalker. Alright, so the storyline is pretty simple and it makes sense. It's nothing too crazy, it's not trying to change the movie, it's not anything shocking, it's just, here you fucking go, this is a little story, it's not that important. Because if it was, it would have been in the movie. As the game progresses on, the boss fights especially get really grindy. There's a lot of times where you'll have to search out for all the health packs or just kind of run away for a little bit while your force regenerates. It basically just becomes a battle of attrition, just seeing how many hits you can get in on the enemy before they kill you, and it can get really frustrating at times. I know a lot of times that I beat the Jedi Masters and the boss fights at the end was like luck. I would just like kind of rush in and just get as many hits in as I possibly could before they killed me. Maybe that's because I was a kid and, you know, I'm kind of dumb, but I recently replayed it and it's not that much different. If you were expecting good lightsaber dueling, you really won't find it here. Like I said, it's just like a battle of attrition. So what are some other things to the game? Well, the music is actually really good, as the game was made by LucasArts, so they have the full Star Wars music library at their disposal, and they played Duel of Fates a million gajillion times. So there are some big flaws with this game. Firstly, the camera. Oh my god, what is the camera? It goes fucking everywhere. There's so many times where you have to manually turn the camera back because it just flips out on you. Oh, and if you get pinned to a wall, or you're near a wall, or basically you're in the general radius of a wall, the camera will sometimes just get pinned behind the wall, so you can't even see what you're doing, and then you have to manually turn back, but the camera gets blocked by the wall. It's really annoying, and there were plenty of times where I had to restart the mission because the camera got stuck behind the wall. Another thing that is just really noticeable is that they couldn't get Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson to be Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi Wan, so we had to get some backups. Obi Wan is played by the guy who plays Sebulba in The Phantom Menace. Yeah, he plays this guy. I'm not exactly sure why they thought that would be a good idea, because Obi Wan sounds like a Scottish man with a bunch of snot stuck up his nose.
There is an Elcott transport station.
If I have to hear, "I'm not sure," or "back off, I'm warning you," one more time, I will die because I heard it 50 gajillion times in a row. The worlds are also really bland as hell. As we saw from the movies, Coruscant and Naboo are these beautiful, big, complex worlds with a ton of stuff to see and do, but all we get in Star Wars Obi-Wan is a bunch of hallways with enemies, and rooms with enemies, and more hallways. There just seemed like there was so much more room for opportunity. It doesn't help that the maps are extremely big, and there's no HUD or any other little points on your HUD that tell you where to go. A lot of times I found myself ending up in areas I had already been, or just getting generally lost because the worlds are so big. And that's not a bad thing, because, you know, you would be like, oh, well, if the worlds are big, then there's stuff to do, right? No. There's no achievements or anything to get. There's not even enemies. There's not even enemies around the map. There's only enemies in the linear areas where they want you to go. So if you take a wrong turn and end up somewhere where you're not supposed to be, or where the game doesn't want you to be, there is nothing. There is nothing. Like, what? It would have been really awesome if you would have been able to go to different areas and to do different things, or at least have achievements, like special little things to collect. I don't know, like Jedi scrolls. Just put up these scrolls around the map and have people look for them. But no, that's no. And one thing is, the missions can get really boring really quick. Let me tell you what happens in every mission. Battle some enemies. Run toward the objective. Battle some more enemies. Run toward the objective. Battle more enemies. Oh wait, surprise boss fight. Mission over. That is every mission. Sure, there are some different objectives. For example, on one mission in Coruscant, you have to rescue an undercover gang member, but the catch is, you have to make it all the way there, and battle enemies as you walk through hallways and rooms. There's another mission where you have to destroy these generators on Naboo, but you have to fight your way there by going through hallways and rooms. again, with all these worlds in Coruscant and all this stuff, you think they could make some missions that were actually interesting. I mean, give me an escort mission. I know it's an escort mission, and it's the most common and boring and just annoying mission, but at least give me an escort mission. Something. There is one mission where Qui-Gon Jinn, like, assists you. He, like, accompanies you as you battle some guys. But that's only for, like, one part of the mission. And then he goes off and does his own thing. And even when he's there, he doesn't even attack the enemies. That being said, the AI for the enemies is actually not that bad. You know, the guys who are melee guys will come out and attack you, and toward the end, they'll actually be able to block your attacks and actually kind of parry you and like actually hit you. I guess one thing about the enemies is that they are really basic. You know, you got your one standard melee guy, and then you got a guy who shoots a gun. There's not too much difference there. I would have liked a little bit variation. So why is this game so weird? I said it was the weirdest Star Wars game of all time. Just start with the cover. It's got this weird green tint to it for like no reason. Like Obi Wan's lightsaber is blue. In the game it's blue. In the movie it's blue. In all the movies it's blue. It's blue. It's a blue lightsaber. So why is it green in the thing? Like that just doesn't make any sense. And then also look at the lightsaber itself. Why is the lightsaber like thick at the bottom and then it gets like skinnier as it moves up? That's not what the lightsaber looks like. It's not what it looked like in the game. It's not what it looked like in the movie. I don't know why they did that. That was kind of weird. Another reason why this game is so weird is that it's so, like, unknown. Like, sure, there's gonna be, like, a small group of people who are like, oh my god, I remember this game when it first came out on the Xbox. But, like, there's not a lot of people who know about this game. I think a lot of the reason for that is the title. I mean, it's Star Wars Obi Wan, so if you look that up, you're not gonna find the game. You're gonna find, like, countless pages of, like, Obi Wan, like, himself. You have to look up Star Wars Obi Wan, the game, to actually, like, find the game. Another reason why it's so unwell known is the reviews. I mean, it got bad reviews, like, straight up. Like, but, you know, reviews are not the full story. It can still be a good game, even if the reviews are bad. And I'm probably biased because I played this as a kid, so I'm very nostalgic for it, so I will replay it. But I think it's pretty fun. I mean, I think it's a fun game. It's definitely one of those games that's, like, you can play with your friends and, like, joke around with it. And maybe not take too seriously, but even if you want to play it seriously because you're a Star Wars fan, it's a fun game. You know, if you're a Star Wars fan and you have an old Xbox, I would play this game. I would pick it up right now. So that was Star Wars Obi Wan, the weirdest Star Wars game of all time. Not much else to say about it because it's just let it be itself.